Speaking of evolutionary psychology, I know you're a huge fan of David Buss, and you interviewed him, which I also reviewed, and that was a great interview. Um, have you read into Robert Greene at all?
Yeah, of course I have, and I like Robert Greene, but it's not scientific. And like Rollo loves Robert Greene, and I've read all of Robert Greene's books. But I do feel it is kind of a guy trying to give you what he thinks works rather than a guy who actually did it. Like if Robert Greene was so good, he'd be a billionaire. So I like Robert Greene. I'm not telling you I don't. I'm just saying I like The Art of Seduction is about the first book I would recommend to you for not getting laid because it doesn't help you at all. Like I just don't think the book helps you. And like Rollo and I disagree on this, but I just don't think the 48 Laws of Power. There's definitely some good stuff there. I like The Art of War by Sun Tzu a little bit better. But like I'm not trying to bash Robert Greene. He comes out a new book. I'll read his new book for sure. But like to put him in the same category with David Buss, I would never do that. And to be fair, like from a practical standpoint, to put him in the same category with Rollo Tomassi, I would. The Art of Seduction, the actual Art of Seduction is the book, The Rational Male. Like that's what I would look at. The actual Art of Seduction. You're better off reading The Mystery Method. I don't know about doing the mystery method. I think you need to update some of the things that you do in that program. But like he did have Eric. Oh, by the way, I literally was just talking to Eric Mystery maybe 10 minutes ago, 10 minutes before we started this.
Oh, dang.
And
Okay.
his understanding of male female dynamics is spot on. Like I wish that Eric had stopped and just got a graduate degree in evolutionary psychology, and I feel like he would have had a ton to contribute to that field. But the other thing is like Eric, because he was like the king of pickup, when social media came, it sloughed off so many parts of that whole arena. And for those of us over 40, we remember what life was like before Instagram. You would go out, and if you were going out on a regular basis to the hottest clubs with the hottest girls, you were sleeping with the hottest girls, period. There was no exception. There was no, what I mean is there was exceptions, but there was no other way to do it. That was the only way to do it. You understand what I'm saying? They didn't live. You didn't meet them in the mall. It just wasn't the same thing. I had Richard Hart, who's worth several $100 million on my show recently, huge crypto advocate, and he was saying what I've been saying for years: nines and tens do not go to the mall. You will not find them in a coffee shop. They just don't. They just don't go to places where you can see them. Yes, obviously, I know in Brickell, Bel Air, there are some. You will definitely go to a place and you'll see them occasionally. I'm not saying you'll never see them, but for the most part, 99% of the country, you're just not going to see them. And like, so how do you create something that's good enough to get people out? Dan is the best I've ever seen. No, I disagree. Let me say that again. Hugh Hefner is the best I've ever seen at doing that. Dan would be the second best I've ever seen at doing that. And Dan used social media more than Hugh Hefner did, but Hugh Hefner was doing it without social media, which makes it a little bit more impressive. So that's why when you again looking at those effects, it's like, does the law of gravity still work when you're talking about galaxies hundreds of billions of miles away? And you see that it does. So then the question is, does pre-selection still work when we're talking about guys as famous as Dan Bilzerian or Hugh Hefner? Is there too much pre-selection to where the actual formula starts to break down? And the answer, just like the answer with gravity, is no, it does not break down. It still works at the 100x or 1 millionx rules. And so that's why I love, like, Dan as a friend, but I also like watching Dan as a social experiment, because he's done a 10-year social experiment, which he succeeded. And now he wants to teach it to other people.
Yeah, I'm excited about that, by the way, whenever that comes out.
Yep.
What is it about Mystery and Eric's method that just it seemed like it just worked for him, but it didn't really work for anyone else?
No, it definitely worked for other people.
You know,
So here's the issue, right? Now I'll tell you what the issue is. One of the things we didn't understand. So I'm going to say there's two periods of pickup. All right. Pickup is 03. So the book, the game comes out. There's obviously pickup before that, but for right now, we're going to call it about 03. So Neil and Eric enter the chat to 2010. At 2010, there's an inflection point. I'm going to tell you the inflection point was because of a guy named Mike Long. And I'm not blaming Mike Long for anything, but Mike Long was the guy who turned pickup into a business and turned it into an e-com business. Okay. News blasts, all this kind of stuff. I started getting messages, and it was just like, and I would respond to the messages, and I just saw it was like an autoresponder, and I realized, oh, this is not Eric. I would like text Eric, but I would like get emails from Eric, but weren't from. Does that make sense? That all started like around 2010, and I was like, this doesn't feel feels kind of icky. Pickup from 03 to 2010, I don't have many complaints about it, because the reality is nobody knew what they were doing. We didn't have the science. We didn't have the data to back us up. We were barely using internet forums. Nobody was uploading video, and we were just kind of doing the best that we could. It was like the early days of physics, right? people just didn't understand what they were doing. No one had thought to include Dr. Buss, because the Evolution of Desire had come out in 03. No one had thought to include Dr. Buss into this whole discussion. No one had done any of that. So from 03 to 2010, I consider that like almost like the golden age, or the innocent age for the pickup community. From 2010 to 2017, what happened was, because of the money grab, the wrong type of individuals. I literally just talked to Eric about this not even 30 minutes ago. The narcissists, misogynists, and sociopaths started creeping into the community, and they started making, like, again, the complaint that guys in pickup were doing things that were misogynistic. It's true for us. It's actually fucking true. I totally agree. It was misogynistic.
I want to know the names off the record.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, but like, some of the names on the record, I've mentioned them before, but like, it's true. They were misogynistic. They were narcissistic. They were teaching dark triad traits in order to get girls. And they thought that was the way to go. And like, I didn't want to stand by that. Neil Strauss won't do an interview about pickup now. One of the most famous pickup artists who ever lived. He won't do an interview about pickup today. He will not do one. He won't talk about it. And so when you realize that he wanted to get away from that whole scene, I had gotten away from that scene, not because I was worried about the offensive nature of it. I got away from that scene because in 07, I started hanging out with these club promoters in Atlanta. And I was just so bluntly obvious to me what was working and what wasn't working. Because it was really heavy, because Atlanta had a fucking heavy ass pickup scene and a heavy nightclub scene. And I was comparing and contrasting the two. And from that information is where I came up with my current theories now, in combination with what I've read on the concepts of evolutionary theory. Those two things are where I sort of came up with my theories in my program, and then putting into practice, hundreds of times. That was thousands of times, and then having thousands of clients like that. Those things all together, just sort of seeing that in general, women prefer more muscular upper bodies than not muscular upper bodies. If you have lower body fat percentage, I can show your jawline, which is a more masculine look. Women prefer some facial hair, but not always, all the time. Not just as long as it's kept well. When you go with the ball fade here, it actually accentuates your jaw. That makes you more physically attractive. Okay. Things like that I understood. Women preferred more money than less money, a deeper voice versus a higher voice. There were certain attraction things I understood. And then there's the ones that Mystery would talk about, which is leader of men, protector of loved ones, and willingness to emote. The leader of men, obviously, that's the big thing I teach in MOA, right? Pillar 3 is leadership. That's why, by the way, you guys want to know, that's why leadership's in MOA. It's kind of because of Eric. And then protector of loved ones is another one. It's like, it's one of these situations where I don't remember, I won't say his name, but you remember we had a guy come on the call, and we were asking him, hey dude, what happens if a guy comes up and grabs your girl's ass? What would you do? And he goes, oh, I don't know, mate. I would probably just like leave the club and like leave her there. And I'm like, you'd leave her there? It's like, yeah, I don't want to get in a fight. I don't want to go to jail. I'm like, first of all, bitch, no one is going to press charges on you hitting them because you have no upper body strength at all. And number 2, your girl is going to leave you before this dude grabs. Like, that concept of protector of loved ones is like, another way to say it for us is, are you down to fucking handle shit? It doesn't mean I'm violent. It's just, again, just for those you don't know, the United States of America has 5,300 nuclear weapons pointed at Russia, and Russia has 5,900 nuclear weapons pointed at the United States. Okay? Just in case, bitch. Just in case some shit pops off. Like, that's the thing. You have to have some level of edge to you. And I've said this before, like, these guys, some of them will come to me and they look like the first guy to get their lunch money took when they go to if they went to prison, food taken, fucking taking their sheets, taking their soap, taking their commissary, taking all their shit, just made into somebody's bitch. And my point is, like, why be like that? Why not embody these masculine traits that we can handle? I can't change my skin color. I can't change my eye color, right? I can't change how tall I am. But I can change my body fat percentage. I can change my level of pre-selection, and I can change my income. Those 3 things I can change. And I can also change my charisma, my ability to connect people with each other, and I can change my ability to network. Those things I can change. So let's focus on those things that you can change. And so after doing this, we're crossing the 800 client. For those of you who don't know, MOA is all high ticket. We don't have a low ticket program. We only have a high ticket program. We just had 800 people go for the program. If you want a testimonial, that should be the biggest testimonial there. And when we have all these people go through the program, they come through it. And one of the things is it makes you think about yourself. It makes you look into yourself and say, why would a woman ever want to go out with me? Why would anyone want to network with me? People hit me up all the time. Like, I was asked the question, like, If you met a celebrity, what would you say to them? You don't know what to say to them because you have no value to offer. Well, that's one of the first 5 modules in MOA is we tell you what value everyone has to offer. Remember, there's 2 things for us that are always free to men. 2 things. Number 1, pre-selection is free to you. Make female friends and go to places with a bunch of females. That's free 99, free dollars and free cents. That's how much that costs. You can make female friends and roll up to a place with female friends. That is free 99. Getting compliance from women, women are seeing it repeatedly, and other women choosing you because of it. It's proven. It's probably the single most. Mystery said it fucking 15 years ago, and Dan Bilzerian says it today. It's probably one of the most potent attraction triggers there is. That's number 1 thing. That's free to you. The second free thing you have is you can be a connector. You can, with high status man to high status man, high status man to high status woman, connecting people together, always being a connector. That is free dollars and free cents. That costs you nothing to be able to do that. So you have those 2 tools as a man when you are broke as shit that you can do to level up your sexual selection and level up your status. So why not use those things? And it's not crazy to think of, Michael, I don't know, what would I talk to you about Elon Musk? I would introduce Elon Musk to interesting people, and I would ask Elon Musk interesting questions. That's what I would do. That's what I would do. I already know the first 5 questions I would ask Elon Musk, and they all have to do with radiation shielding on the first people who live on Mars. And he would be like, yeah, well, and then I'd be like, hey man, if you want to melt the polar ice caps, the problem is you still don't have a magnetosphere. So how do you intend on keeping the atmosphere in there? And I would ask him questions like that. He'd be like, oh, okay, I'm talking to a different motherfucker right now. Yeah. This is not he's not trying to get an autograph. Yeah. This motherfucker, I may need to hire this motherfucker. I see what's happening right now. And that's what happens, right? Same thing with Dan. So first time I met Neil Strauss, the first thing I asked him about was the book Ulysses by James Joyce. I didn't ask him about pickup shit because, to be fair, I don't need pickup advice from Neil Strauss or anybody else. I didn't ask him about pickup shit. I asked him about writing a book, and I asked him about reading complicated books. The same thing. You know what me and Rollo talk about all the time? Rescuing animals. You guys don't think about that shit, man. You just don't think about it like that, the way that you do it like that. And Dan and I talk about the military. Sometimes we talk about girls. You can always talk about girls. Doesn't matter who it is. You can always talk about girls. And we talk about business, and so that's the thing. Like, what would you do when you saw the most beautiful woman ever? Would you be ready for it? What would you do if you saw the most high status dude ever who could give you the job of your dreams or the business idea of your dreams, or you could hire him to build the funnel of your dreams to make $1 million a month? What would you do when you meet that guy? Are you interesting? Do you have any idea what you were doing? Well, I'll tell you what's free to you: value arbitrage, which is connector, suggester, content creator, and pre-selection, which is, female friends getting compliance from women. Those things are free to you. They're always free to you. And you always have to remember that. And so that's what my program specialized in, was those, well, amongst many other things, those 2 ideas. We hammer them home because I want you to be able to do MOA with no money. That's one of the main things that we try to promote in the program.